Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder
and lists.
I couldn't even get my radio voice on there.
I almost forgot my name. I had a minute of like, am I Cindy?
I am also Cindy today.
Who am I? Yeah.
Who am I? That's the question we all ask ourselves often. So we were just lamenting that we never get to hang out because I am just a baseball mom. That's it.
Baseballing, yeah, all day, every day.
It was like, I'm free on Memorial Day weekend, and I was like, I'm super duper not. Like,
I mean, that's like a peak baseball time. Is there like a baseball off season?
I think we don't do anything in August. That's kind of what I've heard. So
I'll see you in August.
Well, you'll see me in August. Yeah, no, I think it calms down a little bit too. And it's like, even if we do tournaments, it won't be like all weekend. We'll find a time. But speaking of that, I thought I would just jump right in, segue into my big news is that I got kicked out of my very first Little League baseball game.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
And it was for swearing, which is just something that I do without thinking. And I was saying to Rory after a really bad call that I had to get the fuck out of there before the ump heard me talking shit, essentially, and kicked me out. And the ump heard me say, I've got to get the fuck out of here. This is fucking ridiculous. And he was like, hey, language. And it's like this older dude. And I don't like when dudes tell me to like watch my mouth. So I just looked him square in the eye and I just said, fuck. Just to like, just to be like, fuck you, dude. I don't know you.
Yeah.
And then he kicked me out. And I sat in my car. It was actually better. It was warmer in my car. I could see the whole game. It was great.
Oh my gosh.
And it was also hilarious. So that's my news. Anyway.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Somebody also today asked me about MH370. Yeah, and I was like, this keeps Diva up at night.
Yes,
that's the one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think what like I actually trace the severity of my fear of flying like increasing to that moment because I obsessed on it and I couldn't stop reading about it.
Yeah.
And then I had to go on a bunch of flights and trips and I was like,
gotta get over it. Gotta get over it.
It just vanished into nothing.
I feel like something happened with their computers and they veered off course accidentally and then crashed. Like I'm just gonna go with that.
No, I think there's like a thing where the pilot like sank it though. I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
You think the pilot did it?
Yeah, I feel like there's actual discussion and evidence about that.
Why though? Who was he? Was there anything to lead to that?
There was a thing around that. I think he drove it into the ocean.
All right, well, that's not what this episode's about, but I just have to tell you that somebody asked me and I was like, I don't have that much.
I will never discuss airplane shit on this podcast because any nanosecond of airplane disaster research makes me really scared and panicky. It's my weakness.
Yeah, no, it's pretty horrific.
I can't handle it because I'm already scared of flying.
I didn't fly for 5 years. I walked out of line right as I was about to board a plane because I couldn't physically get on the plane. I didn't fly for another 5 years. So I feel you.
I have a strict roster of like medications and I take enough anti-anxiety meds and like drink enough wine that would probably kill like an adult person, but I'm so full of anxiety.
Yeah, dude.
I'm just like wired.
I can normally like lick a Xanax and be passed out for like 12 hours. I will take a full Xanax and like barely shave off. Shaves off.
Just take off the top of the anxiety. Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
I hate it.
Anyway, hi guys.
This has been anxiety time. Hour.
I'm psycho and we're both anxious about flying. So there's kind of recap that. Anyway, I'm
also anxious about driving. That's my transition.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. Which
I'm also anxious about being in a car.
Part 2 of Driven to Kill.
License to kill. Yeah. Also scared of walking around and getting hit by a car. So that's very applicable.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I feel like I kind of didn't do the assignment too well this week because my first one They ran her over, but it wasn't what killed her. It was kind of like the cover
But
up.
they did. They still did, though.
They did.
Someone got run over. I think it
They did.
counts.
No, and it was disgusting, and what happened was horrible. But
Yeah.
this one today, it's just one of many murders that I'll be talking about. So
Yeah, it still counts. It still counts.
this is more like bonus. This
Yeah.
one is good.
This episode is all about the ladies.
The ladies. We've got the crazy ladies.
Crazy
and,
driving ladies.
I really like that we each took one of like a kind of a similar vibe. So why do you want to kick us off? Kick us off.
Yeah, sure.
Do it. Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of like looking at these two ladies and I was like, oh, these are really good. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm glad
they
we ended up
are.
splitting them up.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
my tale is Clara Harris, and this happened in Houston 2002. And also, can I just make a really, really, really side note of how is it now that footage from the early 2000s looks like it's from like the 60s?
Isn't
like,
that so crazy?
It got so old looking all of a sudden. Yeah. Like when you see like 2001 footage, you're like, what? When is that? That's the 70s?
Yeah, it makes me feel very old too. Because I wasn't that young in 2000. So
yeah. Anyway, it's weird. Yes. But this story I would describe with one word, which is messy. Extremely sloppy and messy on every turn.
Okay.
So Clara is born Clara Suarez. She was originally an immigrant from Colombia, or I believe a naturalized citizen from Colombia, and she worked as a dentist. She actually met her to-be husband David Harris in dental school, and they married in 1992. So she became Clara Harris. He had a daughter, Lindsay, from his previous marriage, and in 1998 they had twins Brian and Bradley. So they got 3 kids.
Okay.
David owned a very successful chain of orthodontic offices, and the couple essentially went into business together. They were super successful and wealthy. They had a bunch of different, like I said, businesses, but also like homes and properties, and they lived in a big old house in the adorably named Houston suburb of Friendswood.
Aw, Friendswood. That's cute.
Very cute. So things were not happy at this point in the marriage by 2001, actually. I lied about the year 2001. So things were not happy here by 2001 because Claire began to suspect that her husband was cheating on her.
Okay.
Specifically with a woman named Gail, who used to be his receptionist at his office, which is like eye roll. It's very classic, right?
Yeah, dude, what a cliche. Get your life together.
Is it Mad Men? Like, Jesus. So at some point, like they have a confrontation, or she like confronts him, and David admits to this affair. And this conversation sounds very wild because in this conversation / confrontation, Clara asks David to compare what he liked about her versus Gail.
Oh, no, that's not how you approach this.
Don't do that. Don't ask that.
Don't do that.
And also don't reply. Don't do it, which he did.
Of course.
He said that Clara, this is to her, of course, was quote unquote fat and opinionated.
Oh, okay.
Unlike Gail. And he also gave Gail the point because he liked that she had breast implants. This is a great guy.
Wow, this guy is a fucking sack of shit. You're fat and opinionated?
Yeah.
I mean, goddamn.
That's how I feel like most days.
I'm like, that sounds like me, kind of.
Yeah. That's relatable. But he also gave her a to-do list that included lose weight, just look better in general.
Oh no.
Get breast implants. And he gives her this to-do list with this basically saying, if you do all these things, then I'll stay with you.
That's fucking horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really fucked up.
In the week up to this incident here, Clara literally does it. This poor, insecure woman, instead of just being like, fuck you. Yeah. Mentally abused. Instead of saying, fuck you, fuck off, think I'm good enough, whatever. She does it. She starts going to a gym. She makes a down payment on the plastic surgery. She literally is like going through the list. Like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. She's ticking the boxes. That's so fucked.
That's sad.
So fucked.
So he promised he would end his affair at a dinner with Gail at a certain time and place because if she did all these things. So before this dinner, Clara does a wild move and hires a private detective firm to spy on him for the night to check basically if he does that and goes to the dinner, right?
I mean, why spend all that money when you kind of already know what's happening?
Yeah. So
Like,
she wants to see if he's really going to dump her or not, or really going to go to the dinner, essentially.
got it.
So she also weirdly hires a friend separately to check in on the dinner because I guess the PI isn't supposed to update her live. So she gets
Okay.
an additional person. The friend tells her he's not at the restaurant. They're not there.
Okay.
He's, spoiler alert, is not going to keep his word, and he's not going to break things off with Gail, despite his wife getting whatever the fuck done.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets one of the PIs to tell her, which is actually interestingly against policy, to tell her a live update.
Oh.
And the update is that the two of them are at a hotel together.
Okay.
So he not only doesn't, she's finding out that not only is he going against his word and not dumping her, they're together in a hotel. They're hooking up. Yeah. And even though they just say hotel, Clara knows exactly which one it is because they have like a place.
It's a small,
and it's also the same hotel, the Hilton Houston NASA Clear Lake Hotel, where they got married, Clara and David.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's such a dude move, though.
It is, yeah.
That's like, it's not even, there's nothing sentimental. It's just like convenient.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I like this place.
They're not thinking of the broader like symbolism of it. Yeah, no.
Not at all.
Not at all. So July 4th, 2002. I thought it was 2001. Anyway, let's say 2002. I think it's 2002. Okay. July 4th, 2002, she goes to the Hilton. And she brings her daughter, their daughter, or rather his daughter, Lindsay, her stepdaughter. With the time is, oh yeah.
Oh,
and at the time, Lindsay is 16.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing they do is they find Gail's car in the parking lot, and Clara starts attacking it and like scratching it and damaging it.
Jesus.
Yeah, things are about to get much more wild quickly.
I imagine.
So then they make up a story in the lobby about one of his sons being sick, one of the twins, and to get them to come down, which they do.
I mean, it's not a bad, ruse.
Right. So they come down hand in hand. And the Clara and Lindsay basically confront them and start violently arguing over David's infidelity. In this argument, witnesses reported that everyone reports that Clara tears off Gail's shirt, like rips it apart like a beast. And she wrestles her to the ground, repeatedly just slapping the shit out of her, physically attacking her like a fucking banshee, just like, ah!
Okay, I feel that.
Lindsay, meanwhile, just like lightly hits her dad with her purse and says, I hate you, which is like heartbreaking.
Also, heartbreaking.
You shouldn't have fucking brought her here. Like,
no,
Jesus Christ.
No, not at all.
No.
It's fucked up.
Very traumatic. And so Clara at one point also yells to everyone in the lobby, essentially something along the lines of like, hey, everyone, like, here's what this is about. This is famous dentist David Harris. He's fucking his secretary. She's like screaming at the top of her lungs.
I mean, okay, listen, to this point, I'm not super mad at like her actions. She shouldn't have brought the daughter for sure. Yeah. But like, I do kind of get it. Like, I'm not going to say that, like, I mean, I got kicked out of a kid's baseball game. I'm not going to say that, like, I'm above this. Like, I kind of get it a little bit.
You're going to be mad in a moment, though.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's going to go too far. So during the fight, employees of the hotel try to stop them. And when they can't, they call police. But they do at some point get them to leave the fucking lobby, at least.
Okay.
So David walks Gail to her car to kind of like, as if to like escort her the fuck out of the situation.
Right.
And at the same time, a hotel employee escorts Clara and Lindsay to Clara's car. But because, the topic of this week, it's not going to surprise you to learn that Clara does not just drive away.
No.
In peace. She, in fact, takes this time to slam on the gas and hit David really fucking hard. She sends him flying 25 feet in the air.
Oh, shit.
She then drove over the grass-covered median in this parking lot in order to hit him again and puts it in reverse and backs over his body.
If this was a movie, I would be like, this is awesome allegory, but like, this is real life. That's fucking horrible.
Then she does the exact same move again. So she turns around to hit him a second time.
Oh my God,
So
dude, he's
third
probably
time
dead
total. Yeah.
already.
And then
25 feet.
on the third time, she fully parks the car with a wheel crushing his body for like
Oh
a while.
God.
Hmm.
Wow.
And the whole
Wow.
time, his daughter is in the fucking passenger seat of this car,
Oh
ye-
no.
yelling and crying at Clara to stop, saying, "Stop, stop, you're killing him." And at some point before Clara is arrested, I like this. Um, Later on here, Lindsay, who, although she had clearly been mad at her dad about the cheating, is just as horrified by this fucking murder. Obviously, more horrified, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
She punches her stepmom in the face
Yes.
just
Okay.
because she's like, "Fuck you for fucking doing that."
That's completely fucking fair, dude,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes.
Like the fact that that girl was in the car while
Yeah.
this was happening, like this woman is an absolute fucking monster. Like I
Yeah.
understand he was abusive, he sounds like a piece of shit, but like now you are 100 times worse.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
you are
like,
so
here's the
much
thing.
worse.
Slap him in the face, kick him in the shins. Hell, even maybe stab his tire on the way out. Like, that's
Ruin
okay.
his
Like,
business. Ruin his
yeah,
business. Like that's great.
exactly.
Do that.
I'm in favor of all these different petty things, but like obviously this is too far.
This is way too fucking
Um,
far.
so she is arrested at the scene because the cops are already called. And when they get there, apparently Claire had already gotten out and she was cradling, or when first responders get there, rather, and police.
Mhm.
Clara was cradling David's body on the ground and yelling at him over and over, quote, "Look what you made me do."
Oh, no, girl. That's not how that works.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not
Okay. All right.
yeah. Oof.
The first responders have to like physically remove her and say like stop fucking moving his body around like he's injured.
Yeah.
And his injuries were, as you can imagine, from getting run over 3 times. They were horrific. He's like completely wrecked.
Yeah.
A first responder recalled that when she picked up his face, all his teeth just fell out.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And
Please tell me, was he dead on the scene? Like,
no,
oh
he
God,
was
that's
suffering.
horrible.
Yeah, he was suffering and lying there. And his daughter, Lindsay, his teenage daughter, Lindsay, was standing by him and witnessed this whole scene, watched him suffering and dying. And she was crying and screaming hysterically, yelling, "That's my daddy. That's my daddy."
Oh, you're killing me. You're
And
fucking
literally
killing
had
me,
to
dude.
watch him die slowly and horribly. He was eventually taken to a nearby hospital and was pronounced dead later.
That is fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
This is so fucked.
Yeah. It's really, really fucked. As Claire was led away, she reportedly yelled at various people that it was an accident, which,
Yeah, totally.
mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So she, unless like her car, like, was doing this thing where it was stuck going in a circle and she had no control over it or something. I don't
Right.
know.
Right. Jesus
So she was
Christ.
charged with murder, and I couldn't quite find anywhere like what the exact charge was, but I've seen manslaughter. I've also seen like charged with murder, but without the degree. So I'm not exactly sure, but I think she was charged
Yeah.
with a few options here.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
the case went to jury trial, and she pleads not guilty. At first, sticking to her accident story, which is wild.
Jesus Christ.
For obvious reasons, given the mistress and the fact that they're rich people. Rich, I mean, she's technically Latina, but half
Mhm.
of a white family, and they're rich and whatever. This story becomes big, big news at the time.
Right.
And at trial, the standout moment is the testimony of Lindsay, the stepdaughter, who gave super emotional
Oh,
testimony.
yeah, I can't imagine. That's so crazy
Yeah,
she was even, like, able to take the stand
yeah,
and have to
yeah.
relive that? My God.
Yeah. So she says basically that she was like really upset and surprised by the affair, and like obviously that was traumatic and upsetting to her, but she came down really hard on Clara, on her stepmom, and said she, quote, "knew what she did and wasn't sorry."
Yeah, absolutely.
She said that right before she slammed on the gas, she literally said, "I'm going to hit him." So there was like a hot
Oof.
minute of like premeditation.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
when they were also out looking for him that night right before they got the word that he was at the hotel, essentially,
Mhm.
and they were just driving around looking for him. Lindsay testified that her mom said, quote, this is Lindsay, quote, "She said she could kill him and get away with it for what she's been through."
I mean, the first part, you could, but obviously you're not going to get, like, how would you get away with it? Like that, like, I mean,
it feels extremely premeditated because she's literally saying he has been such a dick that I could kill him and everyone would think it's fine.
that, I guess that's what she meant, is
Yeah.
like people would
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So
No, girl.
she's kind of planning like I could kill him. That would be
She's at
acceptable.
least thinking about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
convincing herself that like
It's okay.
it's justified
Yes.
already. Yeah.
Her defense does actually try to claim that it was an accident and because of some technical nonsense with the car, but that's very easily disproven. And it's they try to say she could only have hit him with the car once, but that's like, okay, first of all, there's witnesses, like not just Lindsay, but like 6 other witnesses. There's also evidence of tire tracks that they can put together to like confirm like that's exactly what the car did.
Hey,
And
oh my God.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I never understand what on earth a defense lawyer is thinking when they're putting something together like that that
Yeah.
is so clearly, obviously untrue and so easy to prove as being untrue. Like that's just like they've got to just be sitting there like, all right, I guess this is the plan. Like, how can any of them
It gets
think
even
what they're?
stupider.
Oh,
It gets
good,
even
okay.
stupider.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier, but this is the perfect time to do so. That PI she hired to film the pretend dinner that didn't happen, right? The
Yeah,
breakup dinner.
yeah.
That fucking PI found that they were at the hotel and was filming the confrontation in the parking lot and literally filmed David's murder. So the whole thing's on
Shit.
tape.
The whole thing. Wow, dude.
And the tape is presented at trial. Like investigators have it right away. The PI's like, oh, hey, hi, you know. So it's not
Wow.
like a mystery. This tape is in the trial and they're still like, oh no, she only hit it once. And I'm like, there's a fucking video.
There's a video of it.
Like, there's a video. It's not just witnesses, it's also a video.
Oh my God.
Okay. It's very stupid.
Yeah.
So she was found guilty, but there's a big weird but caveat here.
Oh no.
I guess there was an option within like the manslaughter / murder option that she could be found guilty. And this is like a Texas thing. I don't know when or what the fuck this is about. It's the only time I've ever seen this phrase. But she was found guilty of murder, but sudden passion.
Oh, it's almost like second degree, even though
Kinda. Yeah. But it's like lighter than that even.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's kind of like a special addendum to a murder that's like makes it just a crime of passion. But like second degree murder, you can get life, but the sentence range for sudden passion is 2 to 20 years.
Wow, dude. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
Like,
and sudden passion is an actual legal definition. Like I looked it up. It's really weird.
that's so if we didn't have her saying she was
given
gonna
a
kill
20-year
him,
sentence, so the max end of it.
okay. Oh no, go ahead. It's 20 years. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so she got the top end of it there.
Mhm.
It's a weirdly specific charge though. And I guess if she hadn't been found of the passion thing, she could have gotten a life sentence for like a regular murder charge.
It's yeah.
I mean, it's
wow.
To me, here's my hot take. You can tell me yours. But like to me, the fact that she already knew about the affair takes away from the snapped kind of crime of passion angle. Like she's finding out that he didn't break up with her, sure, but like this whole situation has been around for like a week to her.
Right.
So it's like kind of just developing. It's not like, oh, you have a mistress. Like to me, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I also think there's like 20 arguments you can make for premeditation. And by the legal definition, this almost feels like first degree. Like,
that would be more my angle because I honestly do believe that like she could have definitely snapped. Like the shock of finding out what was happening, her immediate reaction was, I don't want you to leave me. What can I do to keep you? But down beneath that, obviously, she was fucking pissed.
Yeah.
So she's putting this on herself to change her appearance, to lose weight, to do X, Y, and Z. But I think even a little bit more than some abused women, she knew that this was bullshit and she was mad about it. So I think in her head, she was like, I'm going to do all this bullshit that I shouldn't have to do for you to treat me right. And in return, the only thing you're going to do is stop cheating on me. And I'm not going to leave you and nothing else is going to happen. And I'm going to do these things you want. All you have to do is not They
Yeah,
would like break it off. So when she saw that he didn't, I can understand
there is
fucking
a
losing
snap.
it.
There's a
I can,
snap. Yeah.
yes, there's a snap.
I get that. I mean, I guess I also feel like some of her statements are like, "Oh, you were mulling this over."
But she
I
was. She
I
was.
also think that it's like because she's a privileged, wealthy lady, and I also,
Yeah.
who was kind of relatively young and attractive at the time. And I also think that women, because of gendered stereotypes, are more likely to be like, "Oh, she snapped," right? Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
if this was a black man that killed his girlfriend, would they say it's sudden passion?
No,
Like,
fuck
no,
no.
he'd get the
He's an
death penalty.
animal
Like,
and he's a monster and she was
yeah,
such a beautiful young
I just
woman.
think because she's an affluent, fancy lady, they're like, oh, she just had a
Fancy.
fit of hysteria, just a weak moment. They're just sort of like
Yeah.
giving her this like privilege,
No,
even
I
if it's
agree.
like true. It's still kind of like,
It's not fair because it's not.
it's a privilege moment.
Yeah, it's not fair because it's not applied to everybody
Evenly. Yeah.
evenly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, and so that
But I
makes it not
also
okay.
think that she got off light because of just how much of a dick this guy came across. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean that factors in
it does.
like
Like,
he, not. I'm not saying this like I think it, but like the idea that he kind of had it coming definitely
yeah,
shaves off some years of her sentence,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
definitely the more of a dick the victim is going to make you
yeah.
sympathetic.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
um, yeah. So, uh, so that's that. Shortly after her conviction, she gave an interview from prison where she continued to say it was an accident, proclaim her innocence.
Stop,
Which,
girl,
like,
stop.
go off, Clara. And uh, she also spoke about the ongoing custody battle she was involved in, and she ultimately was successful in taking the custody of the twins away from David's parents, which is
And putting it where? Who thought that? Because it's not her.
just some friends of theirs, some friends of hers,
That's pretty crazy. I
which
wonder,
worked. Yeah.
something had to be going on for that to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder.
It's
Oh,
weird.
yeah.
In 2018, 16 years into her, or no, even less, 15 years into her sentence, Clara was
Hmm.
released on parole.
Oh, shit.
And in February 2023, there was a bunch of headlines because she was officially done with her 5 years of parole, and she's now free at age 65.
Wow.
Free as can be.
Wow. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
we always say like just automatically giving everybody life for murder is not fucking cool. And I stand by that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like if you run over a man repeatedly in front of his daughter while she's in the car you're running over him with, I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
20
The
years
the
is
daughter
low
part
life
of
for
me is
that.
is cold hearted. The daughter part. I mean, here's the
Yeah.
thing. In like perfect Divas the President
I'd love
like
that.
world, like 20 years for that is probably more than fine. However,
Yeah.
what pisses me off is just the discrepancy in what her privilege afforded her
Right.
versus what like people of color get for light drug charges in Texas is probably like insane. You
Right.
know,
Agreed.
like,
Absolutely.
so it's the disproportionateness of it that's like unfair.
Yeah. No, of course. And that's, I mean, we could say that about almost every case every fucking time. But especially where women are involved, and especially where white women
Yes.
are involved.
Rich. I mean, she was Colombian, but she was very rich, and I think that helps
Oh,
in any
yeah.
case.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they
and
probably also, I mean, let's be honest, like her race played into it because they're like, "Oh, she's spicy." Like it's just how she is. I guarantee you. It was like,
That's true. That's true. I hadn't
I
thought of that. Yeah.
guarantee you.
Oh,
Yeah.
her Latin passions just took
Yes.
over, or
Oh,
whatever the fuck. Yeah.
100%. I'm surprised they didn't use
No,
that in the fucking trial, to be
they
honest.
honestly may have. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Yeah. I
That
on a
shit's ridiculous.
regular basis, I get mad at that stereotype. Even though I do self-describe as spicy, like, very often.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was watching something on TV the other day, and there was literally like a Latina who was like, "I'm a Latina, so I have a terrible temper," and I'm like, "Don't do that.
No, that's not like an automatic. Like, what the
Don't say
fuck?
that. Like, we're
That's
not
so
all.
stupid.
You're not just automatic assholes. Like,
And also, like, I'm white as a sheet and I'm like a huge asshole. So, like, it's got nothing to do with
anyone can be
anything.
spicy of any race.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
matter.
are very picante.
I am very picante. I know. I
Yeah.
know. I know.
So
Everybody
anyway, that's
knows.
Clara Harris. She's
Wow.
she's wild.
She's something. She is something.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, I was talking about rich white ladies, and the reason is because my case is covering rich white ladies,
Mm,
or a rich white lady in particular.
okay. Okay.
Okay, sorry guys, I had to go check on my kid because I sent him to bed a little early for being a little spicy like his mom, and just want to make sure he was okay. And he's sleeping with a fucking eye
He has to
mask on,
cool
which is
down.
yeah, exactly. He needs to
Time to
take a
cool
nap.
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty fucking funny though. Little eye mask on,
Oh.
just like yeah, and it's the cutest thing when he's sleeping, his mouth moves like he's like chewing
Oh, like a
almost. He's not
cat.
yes, just like one. He's not like grinding his teeth, but he's just like a cat. Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, okay, here we
Yeah.
go. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
back. I'm here. I am doing the story of Melissa Ann Shepherd, also
Hmm.
known as Melissa Ann Weeks, Melissa
Okay.
Ann Friedrich, and
Ooh.
Melissa Ann Stewart.
Okay.
She also changes the spelling of some of these last names from time to time. She was born, she's Canadian. She was born
Hmm.
in Burnt Church, New Brunswick, Canada.
Whoa, that's a
Yeah,
weird ass name.
yeah, Burnt Church.
I want to know the story
It's
there.
it's I don't know. I heard it's like Mi'kmaq First Nation area.
Okay.
So, but she's a white lady. She's white as they come. So I don't know. But in any case, it's an interesting fucking name.
Maybe
And
there
she
was a time when like some native folks burned down a church.
maybe I'd like to
Maybe.
think that's how it got the name. I'm
Yeah.
down for that. Anyway, so she was born May 16th, 1935 as Melissa Ann Russell.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna get into it.
Okay.
So when she was like, I don't know, 17 or 18, something like that, she married Russell Shepherd. So she went from Melissa Ann Russell to Melissa Ann Shepherd, married to Russell. Kind of interesting.
Hmm.
They had two kids and they were married for quite some time. Um, like a really long time actually, like
Okay.
up into till 1991, and she was pretty young when they got married. So they had a long marriage.
Long run. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think her kids were like mostly grown by the time that their marriage ended. And their marriage, it's hard to say. I don't think it was great. I know that during their marriage and mostly between 1977 to 1991, she was convicted 30 different times for fraud. Actually, one of those times was for littering, weirdly, but every
Oh.
other time, yeah, it was for fraud. It was for writing bad checks mostly.
Okay.
And later, when asked about it, she said, my husband developed leukemia and he was in the hospital and he couldn't work. And I had to make rent and I had to feed my kids. So this is what I did, which you kind of think, like, okay, understandable. Like, I'm not going to,
Petty crime, whatever.
yeah, I'm not going to falter for that. But
Yeah.
the idea of like a gateway drug,
Mm.
this was like
Yeah.
a gateway crime.
Right.
And from here, it just gets fucking crazy. So around 1988, she and Russell separate. He goes his way, she goes hers. Again, I think their kids are grown at this point, like definitely could be if they're having them in like the 50s.
Yeah.
And she meets a man named Gordon Stewart. And the two of them start hanging out in 1988, and they have a really fucked up relationship.
Okay.
Gordon is an abusive drinker. He,
Oof.
yeah, heavy drinker, physically abusive. Their relationship is super fucking buck wild. In 1990, Gordon here ends up in the hospital, frothing at the mouth, super disoriented, really fucking out of it. And he was found to have benzos in his system, like benzodiazepines, so like
Yeah.
Xanax, Valium, shit like that, like tranquilizers.
Right. Right.
And they just think like, oh, this drunk guy took too many fucking pills, whatever. Send him on his way. Sometime around that time, he gets charged with like possession of a firearm or discharging it for something. He didn't discharge it, but according to Melissa, who went by Millie, by the way, he
Okay.
held a
Millie.
gun. Millie, he held a gun to her head and pulled the trigger, but it jammed or there wasn't a bullet or something. So she called the cops and
Okay.
got in trouble for that. Then in 1991, he got in trouble for abusing her. He was hitting her, and he pled guilty and ended up like doing. I don't know
Okay.
that he did time. Actually, he did. I think he went to prison for like a short, like months, like mostly like a cooling off period in a way. And when he gets
Okay.
out, part of his release is that they're not allowed to have contact, right? But she initiates contact between the two of them and they get back together. And about a month later, they move to Nova Scotia together. They just decide like we're going to get a new, a new start. We're going to put our lives back together, get our shit together. Which is great in theory, but in reality, 1 week. Okay, sorry, I lost my place because my coworker sent me a message, so I apologize. So anyway, the two of them get back together and move to Nova Scotia. 1 week later, dude is dead. He's
Okay.
fucking Gordon is dead. And what happens, it's up for debate to this day. But essentially, what happened was Melissa called in and reported that she had, quote unquote, accidentally run him over with her car. So,
okay.
like, what? And they go out to where she is, to where his body is, and he is dead on the ground. And he has been run the fuck over.
He's done. He's gone.
Yes, he's been hit. And she says, they're like, what the fuck happened? And she's like, he raped me. He drove me all the way out here to this like road where nobody drives, and he raped me. And she said, when he was done raping me, I got in the car. He went behind the car to pee, and I jumped in to get away from him. I accidentally put it in reverse and I hit him. And I'm so sorry. And I got scared. I drove away, and then I called and reported it. And okay, fine. That sounds reasonable. Police it does. I mean, it does. Like, on its face, that's reasonable, maybe. The guy has a history of abuse.
Right.
He's a drinker, whatever. They look into it. He has a toxicology report done, tons of benzos in his system. And this time they notice it's enough to kill him. Like, there's enough in his system that even had he not been hit by the car, he probably would have died. So, first of all, how could he have physically overpowered her and even been able to rape her, right, in that moment, if he's that fucked up? And also, they did a rape kit, and there was no sign of any sort of sexual contact whatsoever. Nothing. And they bring this up to her, and she's like, well, he did other things to me that would still be considered that, rape, but not like actual like intercourse. And they're kind of like, okay, well, you didn't say that at first, and that's really weird. They also note that he was hit not once, but twice.
So there it is. Yeah, the old Clara Harris move, accidentally running someone over multiple times.
Yeah. And I think her answer to that was like, well, I backed over him and freaked out and drove back over him, like, going forward. But I think, and I don't know in like 1991 if there was like really good enough forensics to really know exactly how he was hit. But I know that this was a big point of contention, and she was arrested, and she did go to trial, and she was charged with manslaughter. In my opinion, and in hindsight, obviously, this is definitely first-degree murder, and like we'll talk. I'll get, as I get through the story, it will come to light as to why I feel that way.
Manslaughter basically means they believed that it was an accident.
They did. They believed, or even if it wasn't, they just don't think it's like outright murder. It could have been during an argument, like, who knows? They definitely didn't think that. I think that they thought she did it, but I think that she was convinced, like, they couldn't get her for sure.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't have enough proof. So also it's Canada, so God knows. So she gets 6 years for this and ends up only doing 2 because she has such good behavior. Now, when she gets out, she is considered like a hero to battered women. And she tours the country giving speeches about battered woman syndrome and killing in self-defense.
Holy shit.
Yes. And the government of Canada gave her a grant to do this and to like help other battered women.
My mouth is like dropped. I'm just like, what?
Yeah. She started like a foundation called like Another Second Chance, or like One More Chance, something like that. Yeah, for women who did this. And to me, this is a really big fucking deal, because if she wasn't sexually assaulted and she said she was, that's a big problem, because that, believing women is a big part of, a lot of women are not believed. And number two, like, how the fuck is she getting this money and becoming like a hero? Now, there was a
That's
journalist. It's insane, right?
that's
Like,
wild.
it's so crazy. So there's this journalist, Barb McKenna, who worked for the Canadian newspaper, The Guardian, not like The Guardian, but like
Gotcha.
a little one. I read
Okay.
some of her because I was like, oh, she wrote for The Guardian. And then I read like an article of hers and I was like, this woman wrote for The Guardian. I was
Oh
like,
my
this is like
gosh.
the worst, like this is like the worst writing. And then I realized like, oh, it's basically like a small Canadian paper. It might not even
Yeah.
be small, but it's like her writing's whatever.
It's not
Please
the
don't
New York
sue
Times or
me.
whatever the
No,
fuck.
it's
Like,
not. Like, please
yeah.
don't sue me, Barb. I enjoyed your writing. It just didn't sound like that. So anyway, she wrote an article kind of casting doubt on Millie's claims here, and Millie fucking sued her. She sued her for like defamation.
Wow. Millie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, she is then in still in Canada. We're now in the year 2000. She was convicted of manslaughter. She gets out in like 94, 95, tours the country. Then in 2000, she's living, in Canada, and she goes onto a Christian dating site. I think it was actually like a website. Like this is, when the internet's still kind of brand new, it's in its infancy. So she finds this guy on a Christian dating site, this man, Robert Friedrich, and she mails him a photo of herself and tells
Ooh.
him that like Jesus compelled her to reach out to him
Oh.
because she was just like moved and knew that they were supposed to be together.
God
Now,
damn, what a pickup line.
I
Jesus
know, right?
compels you
Yeah, like
to
Jesus,
do this.
yeah, Jesus wants us to be together. Like God has decided we should be together.
God damn.
She's at this point, how old is she? Like, what is 35 minus 2000 minus 35? 55? 65. Jesus, Cindy. So
I
she's
don't
like,
that would have taken me 10 minutes, dude. I'm so bad at math.
I knew it was 65, but then I doubted myself.
I can't
So
do it.
no, she's 55.
Okay.
30 and 5 and 5 and 50 is, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's 60 and 50. No, it's 65. God damn it. Anyway, this guy's like 80. And she's this like good looking, 65-year-old woman. It's
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing. And he's like, hell yeah, girl. Like, I don't even know if he's quite 80 at this point, but he's old. He's pretty old.
Yeah.
He's close to that. They meet, he comes up to Canada. She comes down first because he's in Florida and they hang out there. She drives all the way down to see him. And then he goes up to Canada to see her. And while he's there, they get married. And his adult kids are really not happy about this. They're just like,
Yeah.
we don't know this woman. Like she's like obviously not to be trusted. He had not a ton of money, but I think he was like an insurance broker. So he had tens and tens of thousands of dollars in savings. And his kids were worried that she was in it for the money. So
Gold
she
digging.
comes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Gold digging Millie.
gold digging Millie. She realized like, not only did I get away with murdering my first husband, but I was like, treated as a hero. So she's,
Yeah, it went really well. Yeah.
It did. And for the 30 counts of fraud that she did over that amount of time prior, she only did a total of 5 years in prison combined. So it was like short little stints that added up to that. So
Yeah.
she's been getting a lot of slaps on the wrists for what she's been doing. So I think it's kind of, emboldening her to do more. So she ends up marrying this guy, moving in with him in Florida. His fucking kids hate her. And this man, he's had strokes, he's had like heart issues. He's not a healthy man, but even his kids start to notice like he is way sicker than he was before she came into his life. And it gets to the point where one of his kids like calls like the police and reports elder abuse. And
Oh
they
my
come,
gosh.
yeah, and they come check her and it seems fine. Like he's an old man who's had like 3 strokes. He's in his 80s. Like, if there's anybody you're not going to be able to tell if they're being poisoned or whatever, it's him. So shortly before Robert Friedrich here dies, which he died 14 months after they got married, Millie here calls one of his sons and leaves a voicemail that basically says, I just want you to know that he's changing his will and leaving everything to me. So like, She says something
Oh,
real. I forget exactly what she said, but it's like
yeah.
basically like put that in your pipe and smoke it. Like some old
Yeah.
lady turn of phrase that's like
Okay.
really silly.
It's like, I'm getting all
Um,
the money, also fuck you.
yeah, she was basically like taunting them, you
Yeah.
know. So he then dies, and he dies at home. And the doctor, his doctor, calls Millie, talks to her over the phone, and lists his cause of death after their phone call
Oh my gosh.
because he's like, he was really old. He's 84 and he's in bad health. It was heart failure or natural causes, and
Okay.
just fucking leaves it at that.
That's it. That's that.
Yep. So now Millie's got all of his money. She goes back up to Canada, but she keeps cashing his social security checks for like months. So just more and more and more money. Meanwhile, his family is like freaking out. They're going to the cops, and they finally um she wasn't charged with a crime. They couldn't get her for murder, even though they did find a bunch of, or no, they didn't. So sorry. I'm getting confused because there's so many men. She has him immediately cremated. So there's no proof of what happened. But
Classic.
basically, yeah. But the sons and the family, like they have money and they're pushing this. So police start to look into it, police in America and in Canada, and they realize that she was like doctor shopping, getting like multiple
Mm,
doctors to give her prescriptions for
okay.
benzodiazepines. They went to the house and they found tons of empty bottles of like Valium and Xanax. And they're like, she was fucking drugging him.
Yeah, she's got
So
a whole pantry just ready to go.
tons. So they
Yeah.
try to charge her, but eventually they drop all of the charges because they're like, we can't prove anything. But a judge does order her to give the family $15,000, which is like fucking nothing. So very shortly after this, she's back up in Canada, and she meets
Mhm.
another man online. This man is, what is his name? Gallegos, not Gallegos. I can't think of his last name. It's Alex. I wrote it down, but it's hard to pronounce. But he's Greek. So this
Okay.
man is in Pinellas Park, Florida. So she meets this man. She meets him online, and Strategos. I can fucking say it. Strategos. I got it.
Got it.
So anyway, he's a 73-year-old diabetic. He was on AmericanSinglesDating.com. They meet up. She comes down again to Florida. She moves into his house the same night that she meets him,
Woo.
just like that.
Wow. Wow.
Also,
Wow.
yeah, also that same night, he mysteriously falls down and hits his head. The very night that he meets her and the very night that she moves
They're
into his house, he's
wasting no time.
no time at all.
Wow.
No time.
Accelerated timeline. Okay.
Yes. And then over the next 2 months, Alex, who was otherwise a very healthy man up to that point, he had
Yeah.
diabetes, but like pretty healthy. He was hospitalized 8 times. He was constantly disoriented. He was always feeling sick. That he'd have vomiting, super lethargic. I mean, all the shit if you're overdosing on benzos, essentially.
Yes. Yes.
However, somehow between November 5th and December 28th of 2004, Millie convinces Alex to sign over power of attorney to her. So power of attorney. So if he dies, she has control of everything.
Okay.
Finally, his son, Dean, comes over to the house and finds unprescribed drugs in his father's house. He also then sees them. He says to the hospital, like, can you run a fucking talk screen? And they find those benzos in his system.
There it is.
So, yes. So he calls the police. He also finds $18,000 was missing from his father's bank account. You have to remember, these two aren't married at this point. So she's just straight up stealing from him.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and like in a hurry, like,
Yes,
like,
quick. I mean, this was like
yeah.
a couple of months.
Yeah.
So Pinellas Park police arrested Melissa. They charge her with the exploitation of the elderly and theft and forgery. Police say, she coerced him into giving her power of attorney. Just fucking crazy. So she also has an arrest warrant issued for her arrest in Nova Scotia for the same thing. Or something. Like it wasn't for the same thing, but it was caused by this situation. And
Yeah.
she's charged with defrauding the government of $30,000 over a 4-year period.
Oof.
So she ends up doing, I think, like 5 years. She's sentenced to 5 years in prison in 2005.
Okay.
Then in 2009, she's released and she's deported to Canada. She lives in Canada for a couple of years under the radar. She's living in like an assisted living facility because she's old at this point. She's in her
Mm-hmm.
70s. And in 2012, at age, I think 77, she was finally charged after meeting Fred Weeks, a man who she also was in that same assisted living community. He's
Yeah.
75 years old, and within like a month they get married. And
Jesus.
his friend who marries them is like, yo, I've seen this lady on TV. She fucking poisons people. And he tells the police, like, hey, my 75-year-old friend just married this woman who loves poisoning old men and stealing their money. Can you please step in? And they're
Oh my
like,
God.
no, we cannot. They do
Wow.
nothing. So,
Incredible.
yeah. So on their honeymoon, Fred ends up in the hospital. He
Wow.
falls ill at a bed and breakfast and ends up in the hospital. She tells the person at the front desk, like, hey, my husband's very ill. I'm going to go back to my room and finish my breakfast. And then when I'm done, you should probably call 911 or whatever the Canadian equivalent is. And this front desk person calls 911 right away and then separately calls the police and is like, listen, I'm pretty sure I heard him falling down at night. Like, I heard weird shit going on in their room. Now she's saying he's super sick. You guys should come.
Oh
So
my God.
they take Fred to the hospital. He's got, he's got benzos in his system. Melissa
Yeah.
insists that he doesn't have any family, even though he has children. And so they also find out, like, oh, she has fake names. When she was last in America, she was like lied about her criminal record. It's just like this crazy fucking thing. So she's finally charged with attempted murder and administering a noxious substance and not like rendering aid. Unfortunately, the attempted murder count is dropped. And yeah. So I think
What?
so she finally in 2013 pled guilty to administering a noxious thing and failing to provide necessity of life, meaning essentially that she wanted to finish her breakfast before she called for
Oh
help.
my
She knew her husband
God.
was dying.
Just
And
like neglect, essentially.
yeah, like, I know you're
Yeah.
dying and I'm just going to let that ride.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's it. She goes to prison for like 3 years and she gets
What?
out. Yeah, she gets out at age 80 and she is allowed out. She's not allowed to use the internet, like, at all, because that's how she's finding people. Like
God.
the guy in Florida that narrowly escaped, when they found the drugs in his house, they also found that she'd changed his homepage to that Christian dating site because she was already looking for the next victim. The guy didn't end up dying, but like she was working on it, like that was her plan. And then she was looking for the next guy. Like, just
Wow.
fucking wilding out.
Millie cannot quit. She can't
No,
stop milling.
no, she cannot. Millie the murderess. And
Wow.
she basically, they asked her, because she's out now. She's 87 years old and she's still alive. But I think
Okay.
at this point, I don't think she has it in her.
Is she retired?
I think
Yeah.
she's just in a home somewhere, probably. Like,
Okay. She's retired from her lifestyle.
yes.
Yeah.
But they had, like, when she was released last, they put out like public health bulletins and like warnings and shit. And were like,
Wow.
do not date this woman. If you see her online, call the police. And she actually got in trouble because they found her online. She was like snuck to a library to try and use the public
Oh my
library.
God.
Yeah, she
Wow.
couldn't stop. But most recently, she's out and she has been quiet. Nothing. Again, she's 87. Like, come
Oh
on.
my. Millie
She doesn't-
can't stop milling though.
Yeah, she can't. She doesn't have the strength. Also, it's a lot harder to find like Xanax and get prescriptions for that shit now. So it'd probably be a lot harder for
Sure.
her to
Yeah.
stockpile like suitcases full, like she had been doing.
Wow, but what a lot of murders for essentially like completely getting away with it. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's just like overall, I think she's done like 15 years in prison for like all the murder and attempted
miscellaneous
related
stuff,
shit. Yeah, fucking insane.
Wow.
She, of course, had excuses like she'd been, raped when she was younger, and nobody knows if it was true or not. And if it is, that's fucking horrible. But like, also, it's like you're in your 70s. Like, stop it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you've had a lifetime to get therapy, and you chose instead to poison every
lots
man
of
you could meet.
folks have that trauma as well, and they don't necessarily respond by murdering like a bunch of people. So,
Right.
you know.
Anyway, I had to talk kind of fast because there's literally like 7 guys that I needed to get
Oh
through.
my God.
Just like Millie. I tried to get through them as quick as
Oh,
Millie did. But yeah, that's the story. I know
wow.
only one of those was car related, but you get a lot of bonus in there. A lot of bonus
Yeah,
murder.
and she did run someone over.
She
So
definitely
there
did.
she
Quite
is.
quite a bit. She ran him over twice.
Wow. Millie and Clara, what a duo today.
I know. Fucking
Oof.
jerks.
Drive happy, murder happy.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Whew. All right. So that's the end of that.
What are we doing next week?
We are doing, and this was a listener emailed us, and I'm gonna do the
Oh,
case that she suggested. Or you
okay.
can. You might like it. It's pretty fucking wild. You should read the email.
Okay.
But we're gonna do people who were dismembered.
I love it.
Yes, death and dismemberment.
Yeah. I always go for the cartoonishly gruesome, so hey.
Yeah.
Fine.
So yeah, that's it. I guess that's all we have. I'm not looking forward to. I normally don't choose things like dismemberment, but 1, I knew you'd like it, and 2,
It's
it's a listener
normally
request.
me forcing this on you.
Yeah, but I did this for the listeners because you guys, we
Mhm.
love you. We
Yeah.
love you so much. We'll do whatever you need. Be sure to follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/twistedlisters, which means pay $1 a month to listen to our content,
Mhm.
please. Like, rate, review. We are also on TikTok, but we don't do anything on there. It's just at Twisted Listers. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do that at
Twisted Listers PCast.
if you would like to send us an email so you get a case topic you want covered, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to check out our website, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod.com.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening. And until the next fucked up ass list,
Hey.
off our
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.